Hello, everybody. Welcome to your summertime. Hello, everybody. It's 11:30, so we start our webinar for week number 8. It's nice to see everyone here today. My name is Maria. I'm going to be your new teacher today. So don't be shy and say hello in the chat if you can hear and see me. And in a second, we will start with the actual webinar. So as I said, we have week number 8 today. And let me show you what exactly we're going to deal with. Here it is. We will talk about, obviously, life skills and about today in particular about a very important skill, that is leadership. Leadership is indeed a skill. It's not just a quality that somebody has for no reason. It's something that you can work on, and it's something that is incredibly important these days. So let's move on. Now, today we will start with a short discussion. So I expect everyone to join us during this discussion, of course. There will be several questions concerning leadership that I'll ask you, and I want you guys to type your answers in the chat as usual. I will be reading them and commenting on them. And when we're ready with the discussion, we will talk about 3 laws of leadership, as well as 12 skills. Basically, we will discuss in great details how to be a great leader. As soon as we're ready, we move on to the game. Is there a leader in you? There will be several questions. You will have to answer them. And in the end, we'll figure out if we have any already ready leaders among us. And of course, if we have enough time, we will practice leadership through a 20-mile march concept. I will explain what this concept is by the end of this webinar, but right now, just for you to know, that's our plan for today. So let's move on, shall we? Let's start with a discussion. As I mentioned, guys, I see that the majority, not the majority, but there is a number of you joining us right now, which is great. And I expect you guys to join us right now in the discussion. Discussion is, well, it consists of these questions. Who is a leader? I want you to give your own definition, explaining your thoughts. Try not to use any translators or dictionaries. And in the chat, just quickly write who is a leader, who you think this person is. Please don't Google, don't use any additional tools. Just let me know in the chat on your opinions on who a leader is, what type of person it is. Then when you're ready, please write number 2 and answer the question, are leaders born or made? So can you be born like this, right? Can it be in your genes, or can you become a leader? So please write it down in the chat as well with number 2. Then we move to question number 3. That is it better to be a leader or a follower? And if you, obviously you will answer this question, try to give your reasoning why you think it's better to be A or B. Why is it good? Why is it better to be a leader? And why is it better to be a follower? What's the difference between them? And finally, that is, why is it important to be a leader in the modern world, right? So modern world means the world that we live in right now. And why do you think it is essential to become a leader or to be a leader in such a world, right? In such a world. So guys, please join us. The comments obviously are open. And I will be reading your answers. I will be reading your comments. And we will pretty much have a discussion, right? So spend some time thinking about these questions. As I said, please do not use any help from the internet or somebody else or something else. And let's think in the comments. And you can also answer all these questions separately There are 4 in general. You don't have to write 1, 2, 3, 4. You can answer the first question and then send your answer, then the second, send it, the third, send, the fourth, send. You got the point? So please, I'll be waiting for your answers to see what you guys already know on this topic, right? Because we are going to talk about this concept pretty much the whole webinar. So don't be shy. I'll be reading your comments. I'll be looking forward to read your comments as well. So please write them down. And remember that if you're active enough, you might get something in the end of the lesson, right? Maybe not this lesson, but later. As you know, the most active students get some prizes, and it concerns all the lessons, right? Not just the lessons separately. So guys, let's focus on the concept of a leader. Please write down what you think, who this person is, what's better, to be a leader or a follower, are leaders born or made, and why is it important to be a leader in the current world we're living in? Right, so far, guys, there are just 3 of us, which is fine. 2 of us can be active. Please write down your answers in the chat. I will be waiting for them. And I'll be reading them so we can analyze these answers together. As I said, you can answer these questions separately. No need to write 4 answers to 4 questions within one message, right? So they should be all separate. So while discussing the first one, some of you will be answering the second, the third, the fourth, and then we will have a nice short discussion for about several minutes. Okay, we see the first comment coming. That is from Dasha. Leader is a person who leads people. They control processes and help. The main duty of the leader is to group a group. Yeah, that's the form a group, absolutely, of people, and help move towards the goal under their leadership. Okay, that's a very good definition, Dash. In fact, in your definition, you mentioned some concepts that we will talk about today a little bit later. While we're discussing some skills that leaders should have, one of these things that you mentioned, they will be there. So quite a good definition. I see another one from Uliana. I think leaders are more about than born, but if you have some talent for leadership, then it will be easier for you to become a leader. Okay, all right. So leaders are more made than born. Yes, you are right. As far as I know, according to the some psychological concepts, you can have a talent, then you can be born with. And later, it's technically just your responsibility whether you want to improve this talent and to turn it into something better, right, and stronger. Or maybe you just forget about the fact that you have this talent and you just don't use it. So that's also a really good definition. Now, guys, answer the third question, because I haven't seen the answer yet. That is, what is better, to be a leader or a follower? For some of you, it might seem a little obvious, right? Some of you might say, obviously, leader, what kind of question it is. But think about it for a little bit. Why is it good to be a leader? Why is it worse to be a follower? Or vice versa? Maybe you think being follower is good and being leader is worse. So explain, please, why you think so. And again, please use just your intuition, your knowledge. Don't help yourself with anything. We will learn the actual theory a little bit later in a second. But right now, let's focus on this question. And finally, don't forget about the fourth question. That is, why is it important to be a leader in the modern world? Or is it important, right? So we need to answer this question first. And then, of course, you can try explaining why it is important to be a leader. So I'll be looking forward to reading your answers to question number 3 and 4. Still waiting for them. I see Dasha's comment. That is question number 2. Very well. Especially I think that leaders are made because their motivation and their thoughts that help them to be leaders formed in childhood with the help of surrounding people. Okay, so Dasha partially actually agrees with Juliana's opinion that leaders are made especially due to the earlier years during the childhood. Okay, actually agree with this one. Because the way you are brought up, it influences a lot of aspects in your life, right? So if you were taught how to be a leader, or if you saw somebody, right, from your family or somebody in your environment being a leader, you just could have learned this type of behavior by just observing how this person acts. So really good. I see one more comment from Oliana. I think some people are more confident and some are more calm and shy. So for someone, it's better to be a follower, and someone can be only a leader. So it all depends on personality, in my opinion. Got it. Right. Actually agree with you. Not everybody can be a leader, right? Because imagine the whole world being full of leaders. So who's going to lead? Then the leaders will become followers to some extent, and they will have to figure out who's going to be a new leader. So yeah, it depends on your personality. Probably some people might say that it depends on your skills, on your preferences, of course. Some people consciously choose not to be leaders, maybe because they just don't want it, or maybe people have some experiences related to leading a team, right? And they just don't want to do this any longer. So of course, it also depends on your preferences as well. Maybe some people in the end got just tired of it. And of course, they also don't want to do this any longer. And guys, let's focus now on the last question. I know that there are more of us here. That's very well. Please focus on the discussion. And now we're about to answer the 4th question. That is, why is it important to be a leader in the modern world? So think about the world we live in. If you struggle to identify the special features of the current world we live in, think about what it was like to live, let's say, in the 90s, right, ages ago. People had an absolutely different life. They didn't really use the internet was not widespread. Not everybody had a computer, right? It was more about TV rather than the internet. Social media did not exist. Naturally, lots of jobs that are incredibly popular these days, they also did not exist back then. So think about technological progress, think about the changes that happened, and why it is important for us or for other people to become leaders in such a technologically advanced world. Why does it make so much sense, right? Think about that. Think about the world. Think about how it can be useful, right? Having all this technology and things like that. Is it easier to become leaders when we have various social media and things like that? So please write your answers in the chat. I see one more answer from Dasha, which is good. That's the answer to the 3rd question. Okay, wonderful. I will read it, of course, but guys, let's focus on the 4th one. So when you're a leader, a great responsibility falls on your shoulders, and you have to be perfect in the eyes of your followers. Okay, if not, how they will believe or listen you? So for me, better be a follower, because the only thing you have to do, just listen to your leader and do what they say, no duties. Okay, got it. That's an interesting position. Yeah, some people just prefer not to be leaders. It's totally fine. It's up to you after all. In the end of the day, it's your choice. It just does not fit somebody's personality. But indeed, it is still a very popular concept in modern world, right? Leadership. So we will learn why it's so important and how it can be important. But yes, technically you are right concerning the followers. It's easy to be in the follower because technically you need to do what you're told to. You don't make lots of big decisions. Some followers, like some right members of the team, they just don't decide between different items, right? Between different units. They don't make big decisions because it's not the part of their responsibilities. So you are right. It's about the person who is behind all this big machinery, right? Let's call it so. And guys, the last question, let's focus on this one. A short answer would be ideal here. That is why it is important to be a leader in the modern world. So let's focus on that one. And if you write a short answer, that will satisfy me fully. Remember, it's only a short discussion. And as soon as we're ready, we can move on and actually answer all these questions, but using the theory that we're learning today. So please hurry up with your answer to the last question. That is the question about the modern world, right? Why it's essential to be a leader. Think about the reasons. Could be one reason, could be several if you have several ideas, but make sure you can type it really fast. So why the modern world demands leadership? Because it does, right? Every time you apply to a vacancy, to some kind of a scholarship or apprenticeship, right? They always ask for the skill that is leadership. But why do they want to have this skill? How can it be helpful for these different places? Right? How is it important for this world? Because after all, the majority of the companies always ask for it. Not even when you're looking for a job, but even when you're still a student, it is expected from you to have the skill, right? And why? So we have one more answer from Dasha, which is good. Dasha, well done. In modern world, a lot of people are afraid of failure. So when you're a leader, you just have to show that everything under your control and people will work on you. And in our world, leaders earn more. That's true. Yeah. Not only money, also reputation. The future belongs to the leaders. Okay, well, objectively, it is true. In the majority of cases, especially at work, if you have a leading position, naturally you will be earning more because naturally you have more responsibilities. You need to have more competences. After all, they expect you to make sensible decisions. So it requires this skill after all. And it doesn't really matter what kind of job you're doing or what type of project you're working on. They still demand the skill because it's so universal, right? And there is one more comment from Uliana. Very well, I think it's important to be a leader in the modern world because now there are so many new technologies and knowledge, and all this need to be controlled somehow. So that's why the world needs more leaders now. So if you're a leader, then it's easier for you to make a career, I suppose. Be careful with spelling. And also you have the opportunity to make the world better. It's also very important, at least for me. Okay, yeah, absolutely good. That's a good answer. Right, it's easier for you to make a career. If you have the skill, right, if you know how to be a leader, probably yes. And if your career demands this skill, probably yes. So absolutely. Okay, and we have one answer from Andrei. Good. Okay, and it consists of 4 answers. I will read them quickly and then guys, we move on. But if you started typing your answers, that's good. Just continue, send me, and I will just read them later and comment on them. So Andrei says that leader is somebody who can gather people and be able to tell them what to do and keep them in a metal fist. Okay. Right. Okay, got your point. Right, it demands some control indeed. That's an interesting definition. Then leaders are born and made. I think the leaders can be only made because people should learn a lot for this role. Okay, good, that's an interesting opinion. Of course, we will learn later in the end whether they are born and made. Number 3, it's a hard question to answer because leaders must be self-confident and be able to find right approach to the followers when followers do what the leader said. Okay, so pretty much Andrei agrees with the girls on this point. It is indeed a little bit easier, probably, to be a follower because it's just not as demanding as to be a leader. And the last one, that is because without leaders, people in the modern world will stop working, and maybe this caused too much failures in important decisions without control of leaders. Okay, well, technically, yes. Imagine a project without somebody who structurizes it. Then it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a chaos. They definitely need somebody or something to more or less, maybe not fully control, but at least guide, right, the teammates in the directions that are right. So, people, let's move on to the theoretical part finally. Enough with the discussion. Unless you're typing something already, then keep doing that. Don't delete anything. Every comment matters. I will just read them a little bit later. Now let's take a look at the following slide. Here we will talk about 3 laws of leadership. Hope you're ready for them. Here we have actually a definition, that is, leadership is a process of social influence in which a person can enlist the aid, right, can provide some help and support of others in the accomplishment of a common task. And then leadership is both a research area and a practical skill, right? So after all, that's a skill. Encompassing the ability of an individual or organization to lead or guide other individuals, teams, or even like entire organizations. An organization could be big, and if they have one leader, well, this leader has a hard job because there is a lot of people to guide into the correct directions. So that's pretty much all of your definitions are good, guys. But this one on the slide, it's considered to be the most modern, right? So again, it's a skill. Let's summarize. It's a skill. You can gain skills, as you know, right? Skills, this is not something that you get born with. This is something that you can acquire while growing up, while studying, learning new things. And we always learn new things. So not necessarily while you study at school or at the university, just through the lifetime, right? So you can learn it. You need to help and support people whom you work with, or in other words, followers, right? In most cases, at least. So you need to be able to provide the help and support. And sometimes it concerns a lot of skills, right? Not necessarily just the actual knowledge of something that you're working on, right? Not necessarily knowledge of mathematics if you work on a math project or whatever, but also some other qualities. They are also needed to provide the support and help to your group mates or a teammate. And especially you need them when you're the leader of an entire organization. Now, I hope that everything is clear with this definition. This one is not mega specific, but it kind of includes the important aspects of the leadership. And now let's move on to 12 skills, how to be a great leader. These skills, right, the 12 of them, they're based on the research by Quantum Workplace. And Quantum Workplace, it's a company. It's based in the US. It's a consultant company. And they have conducted a set of engagement surveys on the most important skills that make a leader worth following. So they pretty much asked people what they think is important to see in their leaders, right? Because we cannot just blindfoldedly follow in somebody. They, on the first place, need to gain our trust. And to do that, they need to have certain skills. So that's what this survey was all about. The goal of this company, of this Quantum Workplace, was to escape from business management theory and consultant jargon and break leadership down to its most universal elements, right? The most important basic things, without all these big unnecessary theoretical parts, just the basic things. So they worked on these elements. They broke down the leadership to these elements. They tried and through skills that together make the 3 laws of leadership described in obviously the quote that you saw previously. So yeah, now let's talk about these 12 skills. We'll start with the first one. I think some of you already know what the skills are all about, but there are 12 of them, so that's a big number. Let's start with the first one. After this quote as well that I mentioned, that is, a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, right? So they pretty much put the results of this research within the concept of this quotation. And let's take a look finally at the very first skill. That is, know the way. Obviously, the strategy. Before we move on, and I will explain you more details on what it means. In the chat, guys, I want you to write what exactly it means. What does it mean to know the way for a leader? What is this skill about? What type of way do we need to know? Why do we need to know it as leaders? Why is it essential for us to know it? So think about it. Don't write anything big, just 1 or 2 sentences will be enough. And later we, of course, will discuss, and I will provide you some more details, maybe some examples if needed on this skill and the further skills as well. But right now, let's focus on the first one, that is, know the way. Why do we need to know the way as leaders? Please think. Don't Google anything, right? Just use your brain, use your knowledge, intuition, and type the answer that you think is correct. I'm quite sure in the majority of cases, there won't be any incorrect answers. This one is indeed the most basic skill that a leader should have. That is to know the way, but what type of way? What does it mean? Think about writing the definition. What kind of ways leaders should know and why they should know it. So think about that. Share your opinions in the chat. I'm quite sure you know this one quite intuitively. It's really not hard because after all, there is a leader who, according to the previous definition, leads, right? Who shows the direction, who guides. So obviously, if somebody guides somebody, they probably need to know the way. But please use your own words and explain this concept within 1 or 2 sentences. Maybe you can provide us with some more examples from real life, maybe, if you find it hard to explain, right? Sometimes we find it hard to explain what exactly we mean. but it kind of makes sense in our heads, right? So you can start straight away with the example. But guys, make sure your sentences are very short and brief, because after all, we have quite a lot of skills to discuss. So let's start with this one. Think about knowing the way. What does it mean? And write your answers, please. I will be reading them, of course. So that will be nice to have a very quick and short discussion on the first skill, so we can move on to the next, and the next one. In the end, we'll have to speed up, of course, because 12 skills is a lot, right? And that's only the first one. So if you can, please type a little bit faster, because 12 skills are waiting. So guys, there are 3 of you participating, so at least somebody, please write, what does it mean to know the way? How is it important for a leader to know the way? Then I will provide you with some official definition, maybe some examples, if we feel the need in them. And then we move to the next skill. So please write down your ideas or your explanations of know the way. What does it mean in the context of leadership? How do we know the way? Why do we need to know the way? Okay, and I see the first comment from Uliana. I think it means have an exact plan. For example, if you're a leader of a big company, you should know how to develop it, how to make an advertisement, and all stuff like that. Okay, to have the exact plan. Yeah, pretty much agree with this one. We probably need to know what we do before we start doing it and lead our big team in this direction. So that's kind of true. Doesn't really matter what field you're working on, whether it's advertisement, marketing, or anything else. It's all the same. Okay, Dasha says leaders should plan a strategy that will lead to the victory. Strategy is important to know what way to choose with the slightest loss. Okay, I think I got it. Right, that's correct indeed. We do need to have a plan. We do need to have a strategy. You guys pretty much wrote very similar explanation. Leaders basically need to know what they're doing. That's what it's all about. And you are right, Dash, sometimes the outcome might not be perfect. Sometimes you need to consider different options and see in the end which one will be the best. So technically, you've mentioned one of the points here in the first one that we will be talking about later, because this is one of the skills that leaders should be able to do as well. But you ladies are right, and according to the official definition, every great leader needs a vision, obviously, a plan or a strategy, as you said, and the ability to communicate the end goal. So this one is also important. If you have a big team of people who are working on you, you need to communicate what you want from them. Because as a follower, right, you might not understand what exactly you need to do. And if you don't understand what you need to do, you either do it slowlier or don't do it at all because you have no idea what's happening. So it's the responsibility of the leader to explain this end goal to their team workers, right? And because leading implies progress, great leaders can envision this future destination and clearly communicate it to team members. So there's that, right? Well done, guys. Now, enough with this point. Let's move to the next one, right? So that was define your destination and explain what know the way means, right? That's the same thing. So you need to know the way, you need to define your destination. Now, let's take a look at the second skill. That's called chart your course. And it's connected to the same concept that we've just discussed. It's very connected to define your destination, to know your plan, to know your strategy. And I will just provide you with some more details on this one, because you guys pretty much wrote your definitions that included the first and the second skill. So the second skill is about having clarity, right? Lots of people, lots of followers, let's call them so, really need clarity. Not just followers, even leaders, of course, need clarity. Great leaders, it's considered that they see the trip in their minds and they plan for the road ahead. Yeah, so people following the leaders want to know how the role specifically supports the great vision. Because remember, if you don't know what to do, you don't do it, or you do it very badly or very slowly. So it's kind of a waste of a potential and all your effort. So if vision defines the destination, clarity is the roadmap here. So the first and the second concepts are very, very connected to each other. So we're not going to comment on it because you guys already commented on it and your comments are great. I hope it's clear. And let's move to the next one here. The next point is be ready to adjust your course. This is something that some of you also partially mentioned, but I want you to focus on this skill right now. Think about what does it mean to be ready to adjust your course. Adjust means to change according to the demands of the environment, right? So for example, you decided to do this thing, but then you see that it's not going to work. So you need to change it so it works in the end, because the most important thing is probably the result, right? The journey is important, but the results, after all, the most rewarding part. And if you lead in a team, of course, the team is going to expect to see a good result, final destination, right? So think about what does it mean to be ready to adjust your course, and why is it important, again, for the leaders to be ready to adjust your course? Why do they need to know how to change their strategies? Why do they need to know how to implement some novelties in their plans? Why is it so important? Why can't you be just a leader who doesn't know how to do it, right? Why? Think about that and just drop me one line in the comments. The shorter, the better. So guys, I'll be waiting for your comments as usual. We'll read them, comment on them, and then we move on. So think about why it's so important to change, to be ready to change your course. And pay attention that in the brackets, we have entrepreneurial spirit, right? They are connected to each other. Think about how. And when you're ready with your ideas, please send. Make sure that you send it, right? Because sometimes you forget to click on the send. And then I see the message, I will read them, I will comment on it, and we move on. So let's dig deeper and think why it's so important. Okay, we have the first comment from Oliana. I think it means be able to adapt. And in my opinion, it's also tightly connected with ability to admit your mistakes. Okay, cool. That's cool. Right, agree with this one, to be able to adapt. Right, because sometimes in the end, we really have to, we just don't have a choice. We either change or we don't move whatsoever. So it is indeed highly important to be able to adjust. And maybe sometimes it requires, as you say, the expression of your mistakes, right? Of your not specific, not clear enough predictions as a leader, of course. And of course, it's absolutely okay to admit your mistakes because we're only human. Everybody makes mistakes, including leaders. They're no exception. So that's a really good explanation. Good. Now, I will give you now the official commentary from this project on this particular skill. That is, as the journey evolves, you'll see explored landscapes and potential shortcuts, right? Shortcuts that you need to use on your way sometimes, yeah, to save some time and effort. So great leaders are willing to take prudent risks on their way to the destination. As a leader, you will need to make tough choices about which shortcuts are worth exploring and which shortcuts are too risky. So there's that. And also, guys, I see some more comments, which is very, very good. I will read them right now and I will comment on them. So it just says, leaders have to be ready to change a course because some unforeseen situations can happen. That's true, right? The leader should have critical thinking to easily adapt. And that's also correct, right? Because you need to make this decision. To adjust your course requires some decision-making skills. And decision-making skills requires the previous analysis. And the previous analysis requires some critical skills. So you are right. And Andrew says, because in case of failure at one of the stages of the plan, some ego details will need to be changed in order to avoid failure, the ability to adapt to the situation. Okay, yeah. You are guys all right. This is absolutely correct. And please memorize the skill. Ideally, learn the skill if you can. Incredibly helpful, especially for somebody who's like hyper focused on their planning, because plans change and it's normal. Now, guys, well done. And let's move to the next skill. That is skill number 4. So skill number 4 looks like this. And it says, and it's called become chief problem solver, confronting issues. What does it mean, chief problem solver? Obviously, you need to have the skill of problem solving. And it speaks for itself, right? You need to be able to fix the problem that you have. And you need to do this effectively as well, right? Because fixing sometimes is not enough. It should be well done, right? It should be done well. So officially, no journey for progress is without obstacles. And your map won't always be accurate. So shortcuts won't always work out as well. And great leaders are great problem solvers too. So they should know, they know usually, how to mediate conflict or diffuse a potentially disastrous situation. So that's all what it's that's what it's all about, right? Okay, this one speaks for itself. Problem solving, incredibly helpful, incredibly needed. You need to be ready for that if you want to be a leader. So you won't escape. It requires some sense of responsibility, right? Because not all people, even if they are at leading positions, not all people are ready to take this responsibility and solve the problem. Very often, some people might just delegate this decision to somebody else, which is an example of not the greatest leader, right? So that's all about it. Let's move to skill number 5. Skill number 5 looks like this. It says embrace change and track your progress. And in the brackets, we have managing change. So guys, I want you to write now in the comments, why do we need to embrace the change? So this skill is connected to the adapt your plan, right? Why do you need to embrace this change? Why do you need to accept the change? Why is it so important? Why can't we just not do that and still be a good leader? Can we do that? And then when you're ready with this, think about why tracking your progress is here, right? So imagine we've already embraced the change. Okay, this did not work. What's next? Not a big deal, like we move on. Why do we need to track our progress? And the phrase, by the way, to track your progress, it means a bunch of things. So you don't always have to track your successful bits, right? Some say that it's important to track your unsuccessful bits, your failures. So in the end, you can do something with these two, right? So think about why. What's the point? Why is it number 5, right? So it must be important if it's in top 5. Why is it number 5? Why do we embrace the change as leaders? And why do we track our progress as leaders, right? And they are connected. So think about how they are also connected, since they are put in this one separate category. So people, I'll be waiting for your comments in the chat. Feel free to share your ideas. Remember, don't try to avoid text and really long messages, because we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. But a short one will do. 1 sentence or 2 will be just perfect. It's only our thoughts, right? So we have 11 skills, so let's provide a little bit of feedback on every single one, not just a lot of feedback on one, right? So just 1 or 2 sentences will be enough on why we need to embrace the change and why do we need to track our progress. What is the point of tracking our way, right? Let's call it so, to tracking our way. So the goods and the bads, not just the goods. So think about that. Drop me a comment. I will read it. And as soon as you're ready, as soon as we're all ready, I will introduce you to the official commentary from this organization on their survey. And we move on, of course. So please type your comment, use your thinking brain, decide why do we need to embrace the change. And I see some comments, good. So the comment is from Uliana, good. Because changes are happening constantly, you can't stop them, so you just have to be ready for them. Okay, that is true indeed. Absolutely agree with this one. This is something that you can expect, right? Because changes happen indeed all the time, as you say. But this is something that we might not predict, yeah? So for instance, you have a plan, you know that you might need to change the plan. So you are not gripping to this plan very much. You know that it's a good plan for now, but it might not be good tomorrow. So you are aware of the fact that you can change it. And lost my point. Okay, so you're aware of your plan. You know that you need to change it. And you can't predict the exact change. That's the point, right? You can't predict the exact change, but you can be ready for it. And it's important to have such a mindset, right? To be ready to accept the changes, even they are not very expected. Even if you didn't expect them at all, even if you did not want them, you were not welcome in it, you still need to have such a mindset. Because in the end, that's the win-win strategy. Right. People, if you have any other thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments. And in the meanwhile, in the meantime, okay, I see one more from Eliana. I will read this one. I will provide you then with the official commentary. Maybe we'll read some more comments of yours, and then we move on. So Eliana thinks we need to track our progress because it gives us great motivation. If it's something good, that's true, especially if it's a bullet journal, for example. So you're tracking, let's say, your workouts. It's important for you to stay in a good shape and good health. You just open your, let's say, what month is today? That's July. You open your July and you see, I've done like 20 workouts this month. That's a lot. Well done. Well done. And move on. And it gives you even more motivation. So, okay, it gives us great motivation and helps us to analyze our mistakes if it's something bad. And that's true, because if you write down, if you put on paper your plan and then you see what went wrong, right? It's just nice to look at it from another perspective with time, or even if it's just like something really basic, when you have this plan in your head and then you put it on paper and you can physically see your plan on the paper, it makes even more sense, right? You just get these new insights that you didn't have previously because of the different angle at which you're looking at this plan. You understand the failure, right? Maybe when the failure happens, sometimes we just don't understand why. It seemed like a perfect plan from start, but then it doesn't work and it might frustrate us. And then, of course, we need to know why it did not work. So we look at that from another perspective. We see that, oh, okay, this and that here was not the best choice, so I shouldn't have done that. And you can do this, work on your mistakes, right? Like we do at school. Okay, I see another comment from Dasha. Change is a stepping stone to self-improvement. That's true. Sometimes because of quick changes, your progress constantly grows. And that's true as well, especially if you don't want these changes to happen, but then they just happen and you don't have a lot of choice and you accept it. And like it helps you grow. So, okay, guys, these are really bright ideas. Now let me drop you this official definition, that is, embrace the change and track your progress. So great leaders never get comfortable. That's what it's all about. They always challenging the status quo and looking for opportunities to make changes for improvement, which includes tracking progress, as you said, to get better as the journey goes on. So you guys did it absolutely correctly, nicely. Well done. You got the point, you got the skill. Let's move to the sixth one. The sixth one looks, well, now we're going to talk about the second theory, right? And the sixth one will be included into the second theory, that is go the way, right? Before that we had plan the way, now we go the way. So the sixth one is become an expert, something that's quite clear, and I don't think it needs any comments on it. Unless you feel like it, then of course feel free to comment on every single skill. But I think this one is quite clear. So expertise and curiosity, that's what it requires. Obviously, if you have a project, if you're the leader of something or a company of whatever, does not matter. If you're a leader and you need to be an expert, right? Because who would like to lead someone who's not an expert? No one. The strategy will be just not successful. So great leaders must stay curious, because when you're curious, you learn new things. And when you learn new things, eventually you'll become an expert in a specific field, right? So you might be leading a journey through uncharted territory, but you can always learn from other expeditions, right? Metaphorically speaking. You have to study the competitions And those who have gone before, ideally, right? You need to see whether your plan is going to work out based on the experiences of the previous plans that could have been similar. So there's that. And also you have to seek out ways to learn what stands between you and your goals. For this, you need some expertise. And of course, don't expect people to follow you if you're not an expert, as we mentioned it already, or at least on your way to becoming one, right? Because as we said, who would like to follow a leader who's not an expert? Probably not so many people. So there's that. Becoming an expert is highly important. This is probably one of the basic things that we kind of know, but there are not so many people talking about it. Currently there is a very big focus on soft skills like problem solving, critical thinking, high emotional intelligence, things like that. Of course, these are incredibly crucial things, but at the same time, we should not let the focus shift on just these things, because after all, you need to have some hard skills. Either you need to be an expert in what you're doing. Otherwise, without the knowledge of what you're doing, without the previous experience of what you're doing, maybe not necessarily yours, but like other projects experience, right? Or other people's experience, you're not an expert yet. And therefore, your expedition might not work out. So you have to be prepared theoretically as well. That's what it's all about. So this one is nice and clear. And guys, let's move to the next one. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, only 3 minutes, but that's okay, because the most important skills were mentioned. So let's talk about the last one, that is innovative. And I want you here to think about, why do we need to be innovative as leaders? Why is it written driven innovation here in the brackets? What change does it make? Why should a leader be innovative? What's the point? Think about that. Think about the difference between the leader who's not innovative and the leader who is highly innovative. What leader is going to be better at what they're doing? Non-innovative or the innovative one? Think about why. And drop me a line, of course, in the comments. I will read it. I will comment on it. So that would be nice to hear your opinions on this one. And then I think that's it. That will be enough. So guys, the last comment on the skill that is driving innovation. Think about why it has such an importance. Especially because these days, lots of people are talking about innovation. Every time you open a textbook in English, it's about innovations. Every time you watch a TED Talk, same thing, innovation again. Why is this so crucial? Why do people talk about these innovations and the quality of being innovative, or the skill of being innovative, right? Because after all, it's a skill, you can gain it. So guys, think about that, drop me a line, and that's it for now. So the last line, we'll be waiting, we'll be reading them. The faster the better, as usual. There are 4 of us right now, that's good. And 3 again, okay. I guess some of you might have no very stable internet connection, that's fine. But if you can, of course, please write down the comments. A very short one, ideally, right? Let's make it a very short discussion. Why do we need to be innovative? And that's it for now. So please drop me a line. We'll comment on it. Okay. While you're writing though, I will introduce you to the official definition, that is to the official commentary, that is since leadership is all about creating positive change, leadership is fundamentally tied to innovation as well, right? So encourage and reward it as a leader. Moreover, develop a culture of innovation around here. So guys, if you can, please comment on why do we need to be innovative? Of course, innovation is important, especially if you work with your team. As a leader, you need to first of all set an example, and then your followers will look at you and you might inspire them. And I see a comment from Dasha. Dash, thank you very much for your comment. People always thinking about future. So if you are innovative, right? If you are innovative as a leader, it means that more people will sponsor or become your followers. Also, innovation means comfort and easy life, what attracts people. Okay, that's true. Very often it is indeed connected to it. Innovation is probably something really new, right? That's what people find so nice and satisfying about it. And if it's something new, this is probably something that is also very useful, something that works well. And of course, people will enjoy using that as well. Concerning the sponsors, you're absolutely correct. No one wants to invest in any ideas that were previously used or implemented. Everyone's looking for something new, nice, fresh, something that people have not seen yet. Okay, one more comment from Liana. I think it's connected with an ability to adapt for changes. The difference is, in one case, you adapt for changes, and in second one, you make these changes by yourself, and it's really cool and helpful skill. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So this one is also connected to your capability of staying proactive and of course, inspiring other people as well. Okay, guys, very well done for today. Unfortunately, no time for all these complicated skills, but technically you already know all these. We're not going to do this. Let's come closer to the end. Okay, it stopped working. Sorry for that. Well, okay, yeah. So here is the last quotation for you all, guys. That is, make the right choice, be great. Enough was talks about, okay, it's not working. Make choices, be great. Enough of talks about the leadership. Here it is. That's it for now. Very well done. Really good participation. Remember that next time you will get the prizes for your active participation, but this time also counts. So people, great job. But that's it for now. So goodbye, everybody. Demonstration's finished. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later, the same time next week as usual. So that's it for now. Bye-bye.